Alabama has retired the greatest coach of all time, and Nick Saban, and then they replace him with a guy that comes in with a game plan and a lot of momentum. This is going to be a really interesting year for the Crimson Tide. We're going to talk about this week, the press conference, and college football with our friend Chad Anderson. Welcome to Sunday Rollback on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. How about hit the bell so you know when we're live or we've got a new video coming out. Roll Tide. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody, with Chad Anderson? Good to see you, Chad. At This Chad is Real. I'm Mick Gillispie, man. Long time no see. How was the holiday? And I feel like it's been like 15 years since we hung out.
Been a few weeks. It's the whole 3 weeks that I was traveling, and of course I was at the Rose Bowl and just holiday stuff and family and the whole deal. The last few days from Wednesday afternoon to Friday afternoon felt longer than 10 times of travel and family in December. That was excruciating, and it was rough, just to be honest. Like it was crazy. I enjoyed my time and, trips and whatnot and hanging out, but man, you get back and you're kind of hurt from the Rose Bowl and you're sad, and it's like, man, won the SEC title, but really thought we were going to get Michigan, and then that happened. Just unbelievable roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, let me remind you guys that the show is presented in part by New Life Art, newlifeart.com. Use the promo code Bama Tailgate to get 15% off any regularly priced item. And I know you guys want to pimp out your man cave, because you want to remember some of the great moments with this guy here, Nicholas Lou Saban, who it's so crazy to say, but is retired as a football coach. Still stick around, Chad, but your thoughts on Coach Saban's retirement?
It's really weird to say former head coach Nick Saban. That's really weird. Just to hear that phrase, to throw the word former in front of it. And it was one of those things, man. Like you just think about, I vividly remember the 2007 LSU game. Bama lost that game, but that was the eventual national champion LSU Tigers. Bama had them on the ropes, led late in that game and just didn't finish it. But that was with a bad team. That was with Mike Shula's team. And Saban did an unbelievable job. And then I just go back, I really remember the 2008 Clemson game, because I think that and the blackout were like oh my God, they're here. They're for real. This is a machine. This is going to be bad for everyone.
Right.
And, you just kind of go through it. I remember all those games, the 2009 national title, the game of the century, the rematch, Notre Dame, just all those things, all those games, the championships, etc. And it's really, really, really hard, because when I grew up, and my family's always been Alabama fans, but my dad and my grandparents were from Tuscaloosa, and they spent a lot of time there. My dad was born at DCH. And so I would always hear the stories, and people would say, and remember, we're growing up, Mick, like Stallings retired when I was 11, almost 12. So my fandom was the end of Stallings, and then Dubose, Franchione, Price, Shula. And you would just hear people talk about, oh, you go to games, and it wasn't a matter of if Alabama was going to win, it was by how much. I couldn't comprehend that, like that wasn't a thing that computed in my brain. I'm like, what do you mean you show up and you're going to win? And like, we would worry, Mick, about Mississippi State and Sylvester Croom.
I know.
That's what we went through.
Yeah.
Louisiana Tech would come in and ruin homecoming when we were watching games.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where you look back and all it went by in a flash. But then at the same time, it was just, the best run, greatest run. I mean, I wasn't alive during Bryant's era, so it's hard to compare it completely, but it would be hard for me to fathom that this wasn't better. Um, but man, what it's just shocking, but not. I don't know. I thought that if Bama had won the national title, there was a serious chance. Um, and maybe Saban just kind of got tired of chasing that idea. And I believe him when he says he's tired. I mean, you in the work that I do, appreciate you throwing it up on the screen. I remember doing mortgages 10 years ago and just having more energy then versus today.
Yeah, I know.
It's a real thing, and he was doing it up to 72. So I don't know, surprising, but thankful, because like I said, you won't see a run like that again. And in my opinion, I don't know how you do.
No, I mean, you won't. I'm gonna throw his record up here because it is so phenomenal, man. I mean,
Well, if you think about what coaches have ever done something like this, Bear, Saban, Wooden, who else?
Yeah, Wooden. I mean, I would think that, yeah, but Bear did it over the course of time. It wasn't
25 years.
25, but 17 years is a run. But I mean, look at these records, dude. 12-2, 14-0, 10-3, 12-1, 13-1, 11-2, 12-2, 14-1, 14-1, 13-1, 14-1.
Yeah.
11-2, 13-0, 13-2, 11-2, 12-2. And then look at the bowl games. He went to the Independence Bowl. Did you go with us to that? Were you there?
No, I was there the year before with Joe Kynes and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, okay.
I was not there for Colorado.
We sat together for that one, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
because I remember our friend Steve trying to catch the practice field goal, and it hit him in his big gut and bounced away.
The guy who followed the basketball. Yeah,
we called him Basketball Steve because it looked like he had a basketball on his shirt.
No, that was for those of you, who have seen my reaction from the end of the Iron Bowl that appeared on this channel. That's how I acted even during the Oklahoma State Independence Bowl in 2006. I had to be told to calm down.
Yeah,
playing a 6-6 Independence Bowl game, but hey, I go hard. What can I say?
Before this, like the only legitimate bowl games that Alabama played in was they played in the 2000 Orange Bowl against Michigan and Tom Brady, and they played in the 2006 Cotton Bowl against Mike Leach and Texas Tech. But Saban shows up. We get the 1 year of Independence Bowl. Then it was Sugar Bowl, National Championship game, Capital One Bowl, which really is the Orange Bowl. No, it's the Citrus Bowl.
Yep.
Then National Championship, Sugar, Cotton National Championship, Peach National Championship, Sugar National Championship, Orange National Championship, Citrus again, Rose Bowl National Championship, Cotton National Championship, Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl. I mean, the amount of incredible bowl games is unprecedented. I don't think anyone's ever done anything like that before.
What's really, and I've looked at this before, is you start adding some of these things up. And so Saban won 6 titles at Alabama, but he played for the national championship 6 out of 7 years.
I know.
Look at that. From 15. So he won it 3 out of 4, right? From 09 to 12. And really 2008, the SEC championship was a semifinal.
Right.
Because Florida played Oklahoma. And so he won 3 out of 4. The 13 and 14, 13 was basically like a quarterfinal because if you beat Auburn, you go to the national title.
Yeah.
14, you made the playoff. But literally, even taking away all the semantics there, he literally was on the field 6 times out of 7. One game away from a national title.
I know.
And he won it 3 times. Ended up losing it 4, which is kind of, or 3 and 3, sorry. Which is kind of shocking that he lost 3 of them. But just the fact that you played for it 3 out of 4, or 4, what did I say? 6 out of 7. Played for it 6 out of 7 is insane.
9 SEC championships. They had won, before he got there, the SEC championship in 99.
And 92. They had
And
won
then
2.
in 92, right? The year they won the national championship. So it wasn't like they were, pounding national championships or SEC championships. So he had 9 of those, 6 national championships, and at Georgia's run, which for them, they were they had the longest winning streak in SEC history going. And, but I'll say this, man, you were at the Rose Bowl, and I've thought a lot about this, and we kind of talked about it on the channel some, and I'll get you to give me your opinion, but I could see it slipping, and I'll tell you why. First off, even slipping for him is, college football playoff, right?
Yeah.
But the last 2 years, these teams, this year was his best coaching job. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, it was amazing that they got to that point, but they did get to that point. They still couldn't figure out how to snap the ball, which to me is just unbelievable, right? And then the blocking and the missed gap assignments and stuff on defense. And he said when he retired, Chad, he said that the thing that he was very tired, and he was like, I spent so much time on defense, I couldn't get over to offense. And Chris Lowe and I talked about this, and he said to me early in the season, it's not coaching the players, it's coaching the players and the coaches, getting the coaches to know what you want them to do, how to do their job. And they learn from him too. I mean, like, that's what makes him great. That's why he's made so many millionaires, whether it be players or coaches.
Unreal. Yeah, I mean, for sure. And we can get into, in a little bit about just what he's done and what he's done for other coaches, because I think that's a big thing. But you're right. I mean, I always thought, not slipping, but you know how he gets so hyper focused on a team and a game, and it was always the, man, if you give Nick Saban a month to prepare, meaning from like the SEC title to the playoff, like, you better watch out, because he'll come up with everything for you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, one thing I always was just kind of like, and again, I'll take Nick 1,000 times over anybody. I'd send DeBoer back to Washington today if Nick was coming out of retirement. But I always thought too, like, a lot of times that Bama, especially like in the back half of the tenure, it's like they would put so much into a game, and then it was hard to follow that.
You're right.
And that's where like the slip would come from me, because I'll never forget that game against, like, the 2018 Alabama team is one that always bothers me, because that team was so good and so loaded, and they went in and kicked Kyler Murray's ass. Like, I mean, they ran right through Oklahoma.
Right.
But then Clemson ran right through Alabama.
Right. That was the game, the national championship, where Tua threw the pick 6 at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
And then we never could recover.
Well, yeah, Bama recovered once because he hit a deep ball to Judy and then missed the extra point, but made it a 7-6 game, because that was right in front of me. Judy's catch was right there. But then Clemson just kind of dominated. And it was like, I don't know when exactly. I don't know that I can put my finger on it. But and college football has just obviously changed, and NIL and portal, and it's hard to keep coaches, and it's hard to keep players, and you kind of have to like give into them. It's like a mini NFL now in a little bit. I just look at it, and it's like, it's just such a different game, and there's so much more. There's so much more parity too. Like, just look at the last couple of years. It's just gotten harder too. Some of it's not slipping. Some of it's just the game's harder, because you go back and look at playoffs now, you got different teams up there all the
Yeah.
time. I mean,
Well, you can buy it now. I mean,
that's
like
what I mean.
legally. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
can
become
legally
more
pick.
free agency. Yeah, it's
Right.
free agency. So, and that's really balanced it, because before, Nick Saban was the guy that you wanted your son to play for, because he could get you in the NFL.
Right.
More first round picks than anybody, more NFL picks than anybody. And so he could get you to the NFL. He could guarantee your lifetime success and for your family and generational wealth. And once it became okay to just, everybody start chipping in, then it was more about, okay, well, just like any professional sport, the big markets a lot of times can dominate the payroll and the players and the superstars and the free agents. It's really no different now. Like when you get the boosters involved.
Right.
So those things have changed the game quite a bit. It's created a lot of parity recently.
Yeah, I mean that there's no rules in it. I just don't think that's why he's retiring though. But I mean,
I don't think that's the only reason.
But I mean, I'm sure that someone like Saban isn't going to want to deal with, high school kids coming in with an agent, or, watch the Ryan Williams recruiting saga. I mean, it's just how many people are going to show up to his house with a duffel bag full of money, and what's going to happen there. What do we have right now? Are we still at 3 guys transferring out? Word was that Isaiah Bond is in Austin. Who knows? Maybe the same guys.
Rebuttal to that. Yeah.
Well,
Pete
maybe it's the
Thamel
same
reported
guy. Maybe it's the same guy that said that Dan Lanning was in Tuscaloosa, and then obviously reported by people who don't have sources, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's a guy, a TV guy, in Oregon said this.
Two people got me hooked, and they weren't
you fell for it, huh?
I did. Well, there wasn't the people that I do follow and kind of watch and look at and dig in a little bit. It wasn't like it was some profile with a chick from Thailand with 5 followers on the account that said it. I mean, it was two, like, you would believe those sources, and they turned out to be 100% wrong. Apparently, Dan Lanning was watching one of the Bourne movies.
I know, that's what I heard. I tried to. I thought about doing a video, and I tried to source it, and I couldn't find anyone that knew that it was real. And it's like, I don't know, man. I try to be old school like that. The rule is have 2 sources, right? Not just one guy on a local TV station in Oregon. I mean, like, really, like 2 sources, like 2 people that you would think really know what they're talking about. Right. Because even if you say, hey, he said it, and you put it out there, I mean, it still looks bad on you. Right. And that's the tough part. But Isaiah Bond, Kite is one guy that's in the transfer portal. I can't remember who the other guy is, but
Roydell's already gone.
Roydell but that was before the season. And look, man, he's got. They probably needed him to go because of the other guys that are ready to touch the football. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, Richard Young. I mean, these guys are hungry to tote the rock, man.
They are. I can't think of who else. Pope already transferred over to Georgia. The safety. He already took off. Isaiah Bond is in the portal but hasn't committed. Everybody, of course, because of T-Rob going to Georgia, people are watching what's going on with Caleb Downs. I would be pretty surprised if Malachi Moore left. I think Downs is more likely just because he's only a freshman. So of course you got at least 2 more years there. But Bama fans are going to have to get ready for this, because it's going to be something. My question, I've been watching some of this, is do you think these Washington guys,
I know who it is. Des Ricks, and Isaiah Bond, and Antonio Kite.
So with this though, on the backside will be Washington players, because the portal opens for them too if their coach leaves.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the question will be, are they coming?
With some offensive linemen.
That'd be nice. But they've got I forget the name, Jabbar, I think, who's that's his first name, but he was either all Pac-12 corner or second team all Pac-12 corner, who's entered the transfer portal. Will Rogers, former Mississippi State quarterback, has entered the transfer portal. I want to say a wide receiver from Washington, a linebacker from Washington, all have entered the transfer portal. Odunze's gone to the NFL, so everybody can chill on that one. But you're going to have some of that too. And then DeBoer is going to have that battle of, okay, if they're in the portal, but can I keep them from going to, say, Oregon? Because that's really his only competition from players leaving, right, would be Oregon. Nobody else is any good up there. So we'll see. But it's going to be rough for the next few weeks trying to figure it all out with the staff and the transfers and the portal and the recruiting, keeping guys. I mean, Ryan Williams decommitted Wednesday night. He's still in play.
Yeah, how about that one, man? That guy decommitted like while Saban was still talking.
Yeah, I mean, he did. Like, yeah, it was quick. He was first. Well, so I don't know what to say about this.
Jabbar, and by the way, it's cornerback Jabbar Muhammad.
Yeah,
Michael Powell, or maybe that's not Michael Powell. Mitchell Powell, and backup quarterback William Haskell. And those guys, Will Rogers, who was coming in, you guys know him from Mississippi State. So they're going to have the same thing. I mean, the problem isn't the coaches leaving and the players wanting to transfer. The problem is the way that the whole thing's set up. The transfer portal shouldn't have been, the way that they did it anyway. The transfer portal should start after the national championship game until February, period, right? And then when you get the signing period, then that should be when they have the early, they have the regular signing period, which is the second Wednesday in February or whatever it always was. That all that stuff should be done. It should be shut down, and then you go into your next season, right? Like the way that they do it now is ridiculous anyway.
Yeah.
And I transferred. I mean, I transferred to Alabama. Obviously, it wasn't because of sports, but I'm not saying that guys should be held to the fire and not be able to leave. But you don't commit to playing for Nick Saban. You commit to playing for the University of Alabama. You don't sign a thing that says I'm playing for the University of Nick Saban. And that's always been the way that playing athletics has been. I get it. I mean, you want to play for this great coach, but you want to have some loyalty for the university too. And it doesn't feel like we have much of that at all these days. I mean, look at the opt-outs in the bowl games. But I was kind of hoping that these guys would stick together and they would, get back to the playoff and win it, as a team, and I thought they had a special bond.
Yeah.
But, obviously, we'll see what happens. But, the guys that transferred out before, when the original deadline was, that's kind of part of it. A lot of those guys weren't playing much anyway, and they wanted an opportunity to do that. Pope's from Georgia, wanted to go back home, but it would be great to see these guys stick together as a team and give Kalen DeBoer a chance. And I'll throw this out there, Chad. The tone that young people can handle has changed a lot, and Nick Saban was really good at, he may be talking to me, but he knows that I don't like getting yelled at. So you're getting yelled at because of me. I saw, one of the guys from 2009 was talking about that on the next round, and it was making me laugh because I could totally see that. DeBoer doesn't seem like he's going to be that type. I don't think we're going to get anyone yelled at the press conferences anymore. It's just a different tone. But Nick Saban was the kind of not I want to say the last of a dying breed, but it's definitely a dying breed. Where you just go in there and just jump in somebody's ass. This doesn't happen like that anymore. Kids don't respond to it, and I think long term that having someone that really exudes positivity And I just get the feeling that Kalen DeBoer matches probably this generation of person better than Nick did. You know what I'm saying? Like, you felt like that. Nick, we lost the Nick that used to climb in everybody's butt. You know, we picked him up in Gordo, but that was him, man. But that's not what our coach is now. And let me throw this up. I'm going to throw you. Finish. Give me your thought on that, and then we're going to look at Kalen DeBoer's kind of career and stuff.
No, I think you're right on that. You know, unfortunately, we've gotten a tad soft, you know.
Not at Modern Lending. At Modern Lending, if you don't do your job, Chad comes in like angry Nick, right?
Yeah, I do. I do. I have no problem telling you. But yeah, it is, man. It's a softer deal now than what it used to be. And you're right. You know, there were guys like you could blow up on them, you could yell at them, you could get in their face. I'll never forget. Well, I guess I did kind of forget, but there was some coach that was like not Nick Saban level or like the A tier. I feel like it was like a B tier type coach who, this is a few years ago, grabbed one of the kids' face masks, like coming off the field or like in college or something, like grabbed the face mask and kind of like pulling them in and getting right in their face and just chewing them out and yelling at them and stuff. And I remember like the news covering it for a couple of days. Basically, man, you know, I can't believe, would you let your kid do that? Like, this is unacceptable. The coach should be punished and all that stuff. Kevin Steele said this, but, you know, kind of in his retirement, he's like, we couldn't do today what we did 30 years ago. Like, we'd get run out of town. We'd get canceled. We get whatever.
Right.
And that's kind of the way it is now, you know, and Saban just had so much respect that was earned, that he earned, that people just, like you say, he's kind of one of the last ones. Like, you just had to respect it. He got to do whatever he wanted to do.
I loved it when Terrion Arnold, remember when Terrion Arnold got chewed on and he's coming off the field and he realized that, that honestly is one of my favorite. He turned into one of my favorite guys, and that turned into one of the best of the quotes of the year. You know, he thought somebody else was getting chewed out. He's like, but I'm coachable, you know.
That somebody's about to get it, man. Oh, it's me.
Yeah. What a fun year, man. I mean, this, you know, the roller coaster that was this season, just the amazingness of everything. It's a shame that they got to the Rose Bowl and digressed as far as the attention to detail. And I'll never forget him being on the sideline, Chad, and basically watching the offensive line continuously jump off sides, watching the center snap, whether is that Milroe's fault or is that Seth McLaughlin's fault? Most of the players that I've talked to that played, some of them in the NFL, blame that on McLaughlin. They just do, because they'd never seen a center that would continuously snap the ball in the dirt over the guy's head. And I guess he does enough, you know, he'll have a chance to prove himself at Ohio State, you know, but how could they never have changed the way that they call for the snap? Maybe the head nod, maybe a foot, you know, maybe something besides a clap, whatever it was awful to watch. And to think that they lost in overtime to the team that won the national championship. And had they won, they would have beat Coach DeBoer. DeBoer wasn't winning a national championship because he didn't have the lines to stop Alabama or Michigan, period.
Well, what was really interesting that I was most surprised with in the Washington-Michigan game, two things. One, the Joe Moore Award went to the Washington offensive line this year, and Michigan shredded it.
Yeah.
Like, they beat them up pretty good.
Yeah.
Michigan's D-line was elite.
Well, it had three lines of, I mean, they were constantly bringing in three new guys, and all of them were pretty good, you know, like
there wasn't
a lot of drop
Bama. Yeah, 2015
really
Bama, you run 3 deep. And then the other piece is Michigan still wins, I think. But Michael Penix actually played awful. Maybe his stats weren't that bad, but if you just look at how many like guys he missed, like in the first quarter, they go for it on fourth down, and Odunze's wide open, and he
Right.
just overthrows him, throws
Yeah.
it over the wrong shoulder. There's another one on a shallow cross where they're inside the 25. Penix just steps up, but he's just so flustered and can't handle some of the pressure, and he overshoots that guy and overshoots another guy who's open, like literally wide open for a first down, and they end up punting from their own end zone or close to it. Like there were just, again, I don't know that translates. Somebody say, oh, well, they won by 21. Like I think Michigan still wins, but you got to remember Michigan got 2 touchdowns late in that game.
They did.
My point is that if Penix, if it's the Penix that played Texas, that national title game might have gone to overtime. Like
yeah,
he was off. I don't know about you, Mick, but this team, for some reason, I had like, just between myself and them watching from afar and being on this channel, I had like some kind of soft spot for this team. Like, and maybe it was because how everybody got down on them so bad in weeks 2 and 3, including myself. And then the way they just kind of like scrapped in that Ole Miss game and then beat Mississippi State bad, and then went on the road to A&M and then came back against Tennessee. Like they just kept doing it. And then you get into November and you look up, it's like, damn, this team's undefeated in the SEC and got a shot still at the playoff. And
I know.
The only thing with this team is, I'll say, is as much as I love them, I hated them because they took years off of me this year.
They did, man. That's a crazy season.
Auburn, Georgia, and then overtime against Michigan.
Yeah.
Like 3 straight games like that, man. Like that was rough to sit through, but it was, God, they were fun.
Michigan, the Rose Bowl just didn't feel right. Like they never felt like they were in a rhythm to me. Roydell Williams not playing much really hurt, and in my opinion, and it was because he helps out so much in the pass game because he can block.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that Roydell Williams, and look, I don't know all of this stuff. I just know when I talk to people like Mike Johnson and they're like, hey, Roydell Williams is the best back on the team right now, and then because he sees the whole game, and it's like basically saying, hey, blocking the way that he hits the holes and then the way that he played against Georgia, but he was banged up. And, it's not like Jace McClellan didn't come in and score 2 touchdowns and break off some big runs. But it just never felt right, man. The offensive line digressed again. And if they could have just held their part of it, I think we would have won. But also Milroe looked, again, he just looked overmatched at times. And he's got to be more confident with the run. I mean, that he needed to run like he did against LSU, instead of like trying to, just fall down before guys got to him. He needed to run over a couple dudes. I mean, he's big enough to do that. But, that's all here nor there. I mean, it was still an amazing season. And it was nice beating Lane Kiffin after he was trolling Nick Saban. And I'm kind of up to I'm up to here with Lane Kiffin, the trolling and all of that stuff. 1 minute he's complimentary, and then the next minute he's like, taking a shot. And it's, I guess it's just part of who he is. I coach freshwater down there, and it's like, enough's enough, man. I mean, he's going to, and look, I enjoy watching him and the team. They're a fun team to watch. And I pull for them. I mean, it's not like I'm like, I hate Ole Miss or something. I was glad they beat Penn State, but some of that stuff gets old. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with the future of Alabama football. I'm curious to see how Coach DeBoer makes the transition and takes over. So let's go there now, and let's talk about Coach DeBoer. Here's his rap sheet, if you will. And when he was in the NAIA league, coaching Sioux Falls, lost in the semifinal, won the championship, lost the championship, won the championship, won the championship. I mean, I know it's not the same level of football, but when you go 67-3, and you go 49-1 in your conference, that means something. I mean, like it shows your ability to coach football.
Yeah, I mean, guys, for sure, it is not the same thing when you're talking about NAIA and SEC. I mean, we get it. There's something completely different, obviously. It's completely different. Fresno State and Washington and Alabama, all those things so different. But I don't care what league you play in, or what conference you're in, or what level you're in. I don't even care if you're middle school, high school, college, whatever. Going 67-3 is really, 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 really difficult.
Yeah.
Like that
That's
is
Saban stuff.
unheard of. It is, because when you look at it, like, hey, the NAIA, like, they all have the same rules. They all have similar, teams, quote unquote. They all have guys who are, it's not like Alabama's playing in the NAIA and DeBoer was coaching Alabama.
Yeah, right.
It's just not the same thing, I mean, Bama would have gone 70-0, obviously, but
yeah, right.
in that case, but
he went 67-3.
That's what I mean. Like,
look, if he wins the game, the championship game in 2007, I mean, he's won every game for 4 years.
Right.
Which is crazy. That's amazing to me.
Now look at, one thing you could do too is look at some of the other coaches, and one that sticks out is Chris Kleinman, right, at Kansas State. So he took over for Bill Snyder. Bill Snyder's not Nick Saban, but Bill Snyder's well respected and a great football coach. And he goes into the Big 12 with Kansas State, not with Texas, not with Oklahoma. He goes into the Big 12 with Kansas State. All right. That would like be good every now and then randomly. They're always like 8-4, 9-3, 7-5. Occasionally you'd like look up and you're like, oh my God, they're 10-2. How did that happen? They sneak up on you. He won the Big 12 with them, beat TCU, and played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Now Alabama beat them up pretty good, but you see the point. Like, those coaches, those guys still know X's and O's,
right?
And Kleinman did that with a mediocre Big 12 program. So, I just look at it like, hey, when it comes just strictly down to coaching and X's and O's, like, guys like this can be a problem. I mean, they got to come from somewhere too. That's the other thing I remind everybody. Like, Nick Saban was Kent State and Toledo and Michigan State and LSU, and a failure at the Dolphins, and then, a winner at Alabama. Like, they come from somewhere. So DeBoer has proven that he's a winner. His biggest obstacle won't be X's and O's, in my opinion. It's going to be, the recruiting, and it's just going to be the fishbowl. And can he handle that pressure? Because that's usually the bigger problem, when guys come in here or anywhere in the SEC for that matter. It's the fishbowl and the expectations, and it's very different.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he got on my radar when he was the offensive coordinator at Fresno State. And you saw that, like, the program just started to get things moving in the right direction, and like all of a sudden, like, he's there in 2019, and you wouldn't think that a record of 8-5 would be that big of a deal, and a 5-4 record in conference. But if you don't know that, then you don't know Indiana football, because that's a great year for them. I mean, you're talking about an amazing season. And that's when he coached a young Michael Penix, and they put up a fight. I mean, they got blown out by Ohio State, but hung in there. They lost to Michigan State, and that was a good Michigan State game, our team, and they kind of hung in there against them. They went to Penn State and lost, but lost by a touchdown. And they lost to Tennessee in their bowl game by a point. But still, it was like one of those campaigns that caught my eye, because I remember watching them and going, Indiana's normally like a 3-win school in my mind, and to see them kind of be a fun team to watch and play a lot of offense, that's when this guy got on my radar. And then after that, he went to Fresno State and kind of fell off my radar. But then you look at what he did at Fresno State, no football powerhouse by any means. But they ended up, 9-3 and 6-2 in the conference. And then from there he went to Washington and was 7-2 and ended up 8th best, won the Alamo Bowl, tied for second. And then this year, won the Sugar Bowl, and he was like back-to-back Pac-12 Coach of the Year for that.
Yeah, and I believe, didn't he beat UCLA or something that year at Fresno? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just about to look that up. Yeah, they beat somebody they weren't supposed to.
Yeah, so they lost.
They lost to Oregon.
Only by a touchdown.
By a touchdown, yeah.
At Oregon. And then they beat UCLA by a field goal.
Yep.
And they beat San Diego State. And you say, but San Diego State was ranked at the time.
Yep.
They were number 21.
I remember that.
Yeah, they beat them by 10. So, yeah, he again, good X's and O's guy. He's been responsible for, Indiana. He went in there and made their offense something. Remember Michael Penix during the COVID year is when he kind of came out unrecognized.
Yeah.
Because that's when I specifically remember the game, like where Penix and Indiana, they were hosting Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And Penix was diving to the end zone, the outstretched hand, and it hit the pylon, and that like beat them. And that was such a big deal for Indiana. My wife is an Indiana alum of all things.
Really?
But yeah.
No, I didn't know that about her. I did not know. So you pay attention to Indiana football and know that Indiana doesn't really play a lot of football.
Let's just say this: Indiana doesn't get on the TV at our house, and we have an alum who lives here. So it tells you how important Indiana football is. But yeah, that's what was so interesting. But that Indiana offensive coordinator gig is what got him out there to Fresno, and like you said, what he was able to do as an offensive coordinator under Tom Allen, and nice job, goes to Fresno, does his thing, and works his way up. And this is a guy who, again, I don't know for sure, obviously, because I didn't really follow Washington or follow Fresno, unless maybe I had some coin on them at the end of the night. But that's about it. But I look at this and I go, okay, well, he's not going to have the big personality, like we talked about earlier. It's going to be more mellow. He's going to probably be very business-like, just, all right, you go in, you do this, and you do it the right way, and you game plan, and you out-nerd the other guy. So to me, the thing is literally just going to be getting the athletes.
Right.
But one thing I really liked about what he said yesterday in his opening press conference, his first press conference, is he mentioned the process, which is a big thing, obviously, with what Saban did. He talked about Nick Saban having 100% access to the program, and that he'd be a fool not to make that part of the whole deal. And he just kind of talked about, like, it doesn't seem like we're in for any kind of an overhaul. He understands, like, he's just building on the foundation that's already here. He's not trying to recreate or reinvent anything.
No, I got the idea that he's really smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that he is a smart guy, and that that this isn't all about him. It's about the players, that he is going to take advantage of this opportunity. That includes having Nick Saban, like you said, and that he understands that recruiting is a big part of this job, that he's going to have to prove himself. He brought over his general manager with him. That's kind of a role that they have that helps him recruiting, right? Yeah. And he's got a game plan on how he's going to do things. I think part of what's going to make him successful is that there's going to be other coaches in this league and around college football that underestimate him. I think that they're going to mistake his kindness for weakness. And that's going to be something that he's going to take advantage of. I think the guy's going to have great success. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have really big time success at Alabama and then go to the NFL. He just kind of reminds me of an NFL guy, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, just like a lot of people feel like he, there were a lot of Bama fans that weren't really sure, Chad, about him and were worried about him. And they tried to use the Brian Harsin comparison. I never watched Brian Harsin press conference and ever thought that Brian Harsin was anyone that I would want to hang out with. I have the, this. I judge everyone on what they would be like to have a beer with. Would Brian Harsin be the kind of guy that you would want to have a beer with? He would look too tense, and like uptight and, kind of gym teacherish, it's not because he was from Boise State. It was just that's how he came off to me. This guy came off like he'd be a pretty cool guy to hang out with.
So let me run some questions by you, Mick, that I want to see what your answer to some of these are.
Okay.
As more like a fan.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
fan Mick, you don't want. Yeah.
Yeah. Fan Mick. Well, I mean, this channel's not like, this isn't Sports Center where you got to be unbiased.
Right.
This channel's a fan channel.
It's a fan channel.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get some fan answers here. Maybe not the Chad Iron Bowl reaction fan, but maybe some normal fan answers. So,
okay.
What do you?
I just got that.
Yeah.
We're not going to get flagged.
Yeah. Right. You're gonna have YouTube, Google calling us. What are you happy with in the first 3 years? Like, what are the first 3 years? What happens to where you're like, cool, I'm good. Like, obviously winning the Natty and we're all ecstatic, but what's the minimum in the first 3 years? You're like, okay, I'm good. This is fine.
I think we got to go to the college football playoff 2 out of the 3 years at least. We need to win an SEC championship.
And remember, that's for everybody. Remember, that's
that could be different now. Yeah, you know what? The SEC championship might not be as big of a deal anymore.
Yeah,
because of what we've done, with everything. So you're right.
It's nice to have, but
you might not even care to play in it.
Well, sometimes it may hurt you. We brought that up.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd say that. I mean. Wow, that's a good question. I mean, because everything is different now. Mm-hmm. But I would say, I think you got to get into the college football playoff at least 2 out of 3 years. I mean, now that 12 teams are in, right? What do you think?
Yeah, because if you're Alabama, not any other brand, but if you're Alabama, 10-2 is automatically in, right? I mean, 10-2 Alabama's in. A 9-3 Alabama in the right year could be in.
Yeah, next year. Look at that schedule.
Yeah, brutal schedule, right? So 9-3 in the number one schedule in the country. I mean, that could be in as well. Not that they have it, but I mean they could. That schedule's pretty tough. I'm with you. I think one of the 3 years, if he goes over in the playoff, like making the playoff, goes over in the first 3, Bama's probably on a search. That's my,
But I mean, that would just be, that would be a disaster.
That's what I mean. Like, that'd be extremely disappointing, right? And I think I was going off playoffs. You played it perfect because I was going off playoff appearances. One playoff appearance, and you're like, okay. And then how did we do the one time we did get in? Like, did you get bounced in the first round or did you make it to the finals? Like, that's relevant, right? But if it's 2 out of 3, you're good. 1 out of 3, it's how'd you fare? None out of 3, and we're asking Nick how he's enjoying retirement.
Yeah, let me throw that. Like, I've been using this graphic a lot. He's 104-12. So you're saying that he's going to inherit this program, and then all of a sudden, like, he's just going to start losing a bunch of games.
Oh no, I'm not saying he's going to. I'm saying
if he did, you'd have a short leash for him.
Yeah, I would be banned on YouTube for sure if that happened.
Oh man, that's
going
to be. But you know what? Losing games isn't
happen though. It's more just what are the expectations in the first 3 years, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of it is that, like we said, it's like it's not like you're not going to go undefeated probably anymore. You're going to just play so many hard games.
Yeah, college is more the NFL now, where the only difference is instead of knowing exactly how to get into the top 12, you get voted into the top 12. I mean, yeah, you can 0 losses or 1 loss and you're in, but you get my point. Like in NFL, you could go 10-7 and you're going to make the playoffs, like the Texans did yesterday. But so it just kind of depends. But college, the college team that goes, what would that be? 12-0, 13-0, and then 16-0. I mean, think about that. 16-0. You're what? Just a few wins away from pulling the Dolphins with the 73 Dolphins.
Well, I think they didn't go 16-0. They didn't play that many back then. I want to say they were 14-0.
No, it had to be more than that.
I think I'm going to look it up.
Playoffs and everything.
I don't think it was more than 16 games.
What year was that? Was that 73?
I'm looking it up right now.
Pull that up and see.
I used to have this this Super Bowl book. And I want to say that was Super Bowl 5. That was like Super Bowl 7, maybe. I'm looking right now. But so what's your next one?
All right. So next one is, and this is more, let's go next question.
No, you're right. You know what? You're right. 17-0. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're right. And it was Super Bowl 7. Yep. 72.
72. Yeah, I was 73 on that. All right. So next one, where are you at and what are you hoping for? And be realistic.
Yeah.
Staff wise, mainly just OC and DC.
Well, I really think that Ryan Grubb's going to get the OC job, the head coaching job at Washington, but I would love for them to F that up and hire, and then we get him. That would be great. Defensive coordinator. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this. We talked about this before. One of the weaknesses that Saban had was it wasn't necessarily his fault. He was a victim of his own success, where he wasn't able to really keep a lot of his coaches in Tuscaloosa very long.
Yeah.
Whereas you see a lot of these other, like Dabo, how long did he keep his group together before they all broke away,
Wow.
And they could have left. Yeah. And so it's kind of the same thing with Saban. He kept, you have to cycle in another one. I think that DeBoer has a better chance of having the same group together for a while because I don't think that he's going to be as hard to work for as Coach Saban was. I don't see him. Coach Saban was infamously hard to work with, but that's part of what made him so successful, right? I mean, the coaches felt like they didn't have a home life. You could never get there early enough to beat him, and you could never stay late enough to be there after him, right? I mean, it was like crazy how the guy was so dedicated and put in so many hours. That isn't the only way that you can have success, but that's the way that he had success. So I think that whoever DeBoer gets, there's a better chance of stability long-term with the coaches. I think it's going to be a different group of coaches. I felt like a lot of times with Saban, it was always like somebody that, that was either a graduate assistant that came up and coached with one of his former assistants and then would come back. It was like, that's like all these recycled guys. See, I think that this is a different coaching group. And I believe that DeBoer could go outside of that. Now, with that said, Charlie Strong wouldn't be a bad hire, who was an analyst.
He's going to be a recruiter for the region.
Yeah, right. And he's going to have some in-house options too. And he's going to, honestly, he may need to kind of look to Saban to figure out some of these positions. And, obviously T-Rob took the money and ran over to Georgia. And I told you guys at the beginning that was in progress before Saban even retired. So, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, you'd be worried about stability. So I guess that's my answer. What's yours?
Jeremy Pruitt.
Well, he can't. He's at show clause.
Is it still?
Yeah, until 20. Basically, the way I understand
I thought it was a 1 year.
2029.
I definitely didn't know it was 2029. How did I miss that?
And if you hire him, I guess if you hire him, he's suspended for an entire year.
Well, then there you go.
But you're not the only one. When we were doing the coaching search show, everybody was talking about that, and it's confusing, man. Like the whole thing's confusing to me. Like how all of that stuff works. Honestly, I don't even know what the NCAA does anymore.
Huh. Well,
so outside of him, who do you think?
It is. Yeah, it is July 13th, 2029. I'm almost embarrassed that I missed it that bad.
Oh, that's all right.
I knew he had it, but I thought it was a 1 or 2 year type deal.
Well, you probably thought that because you're just suspended for a year if someone hires
maybe that's
you.
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, I really like Charlie Strong. That's kind of the more of the lane that I was headed towards. I mean, you got a guy with head coaching experience. Knows Texas, knows Florida, obviously big recruiting grounds there, knows Alabama, could really too just kind of step in and take that over. And he's a physical guy. I give Pete Golding such a hard time, and he deserves it. But
you don't want him to go get Golding to come back home again.
Not, I look at those D coordinators and I'm just like, you're not doing anything. There's nothing great or dominating about that kind of a defense. And that's what we're used to at Alabama, right? It's like smothering, punishing, joyless murder ball.
Right.
And this year we finally started to get back to that compared to what we had been in recent previous years. And so, that was all. That's who I would prefer is Charlie Strong.
Well, we'll find out, because one of the things he talked about yesterday, not in his press conference, but in the media session that they had, was that he's focused on getting the coordinators figured out so that they can build their staff, so that the players know who they're working with, the coaches know who they're working with. So he's going to figure that out pretty soon. He'll have Saban there. There's guys on staff. And, to be fair to everyone involved, you want to get that done as quick as possible.
Well, and the other is, because you got the portal. It's sitting there wide open and guys don't know what they're doing, what's happening. To transition real quick on the offensive coordinator side, because all eyes are on Grubb from Washington, right? Like as far as Alabama fans go, we don't really care who they hire at Washington as long as it's not Grubb, because we selfishly want Grubb for offensive coordinator. And when you look at a couple of the Washington names, there were 2 names that emerged today. Cliff Kingsbury is actually a potential candidate for Washington.
Hire him, please.
I mean, what a joke that would be for them. I would feel bad for them. But he's apparently a candidate. The other one, though, that I think would be really good and would be a home run for Washington would be Jed Fish out of Arizona.
Okay. He did a great job.
What he did with Arizona is unbelievable. And so if he got Washington's job going into the pack or going into the Big Ten, and the way he was able to resurrect Arizona, then that would be an amazing hire for them.
Yeah. Is this his second year at Arizona?
It is. Yeah.
So he actually beat Coach DeBoer last year then.
Did he?
He lost 2 games. I thought one of them was to Arizona. Maybe I'm thinking Arizona State. It was Arizona State. Yeah, sorry. So it wasn't Arizona.
So as I say, DeBoer beat Arizona on the road this year. Last year it was at Arizona State. Lost 2 in a row. Lost at UCLA 40-32 and lost at Arizona State 45-38 back-to-back weeks.
Right.
How
about the guy's home record?
Went 10-2. Home record's great. But went 10-2 in his first year at Washington. Yeah. At Washington, coming off a 4-8 season.
I know. Like the worries, honestly, the recruiting. I think he's going to do fine. I mean, I think he could fall into a top 15 class, but I think he's going to be a lot better at this than we're going to give him credit, just because of. I think he's going to be motivated to win, and he knows that that's where he's going to do it. But I got a feeling he's going to attack the transfer portal a lot harder than Nick Saban did too.
He's probably going to have to, especially early. Last one's a question, one's a more statement. I would say that from a quarter position, is it Milroe now? Like, who's starting in August against Western Kentucky?
Well, I think Milroe is, but the guys like Dylan Laudergan and Julian Sayin,
yeah.
He makes those type of quarterbacks amazing. I mean, you look at the quarterback that he had at Fresno State throwing for like 3,000 yards and a bunch of touchdowns, and a guy no one's ever even heard of before. Every quarterback he's ever had throws a ton and has a ton of success. But at the same time, maybe Milroe could do that. I mean, there was definitely a question about some of Milroe's instincts about, basically reading defenses, throwing, reacting. Sometimes, I had guys say, hey, it looks like he tries to throw the ball off his front foot, needs to kind of work on his technique a little bit. Maybe this guy comes in and turns Milroe into the machine that Michael Penix was, but he's a much better athlete than Penix. I mean, you need to talk about it. Milroe is a better athlete than a lot of players, right?
People didn't realize this. Penix didn't really run the ball.
Not at all. He couldn't.
He did some, but it was nothing like Milroe.
Well, he used to run when he was at when he was at Indiana. He ran, and then not like not a whole lot, but some. And then he got hurt. He had a bunch of injuries, and then he became a drop back passer. And I thought he toughed it out in that championship game. I mean, he got pounded.
He did. More, like I said, last thing, comment, more than a question.
Okay.
And this is more reassuring. I think DeBoer is going to have success. I really do. Nobody's going to have the Nick Saban success, but I think DeBoer is going to have Alabama consistently, in conversations of playoffs and national championships and whatnot. The good news, Mick, is this guy is from South Dakota.
Yeah.
There's really no college football that's going to be better than what he's got. So there's not like a home that he wants to go to, like a Kirby Smart. You love Alabama, but you played at Georgia. Well, he doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So there's nothing better for him from a college standpoint. So then you mentioned the NFL earlier, and if you grow up in South Dakota, I mean, what you like the Vikings? And I don't know who he likes. I'm just more like, you couldn't have, if you were going to drop somebody or pick somebody out of a map and say, okay, who can we get that'll like it here, and who will like it here and be loyal to us, and we never have to look over our shoulder about, are they going to go to the NFL?
He's not leaving us, baby.
Yeah, unless maybe he's like a Dallas Cowboys person, and
right.
That comes up in 5 or 10 years. But that's the other good thing, is you're not hiring a guy where you're always worried that somebody could come poach him if that perfect job came open.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to remind you guys that our show is brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Choctaw, Mississippi. Great time to go to the Timeout Sports Lounge Sportsbook, bet on the NFL playoffs. You got NASCAR, which I think is really a fun sport to wager on. They've got the 20 big screen TVs in the lounge. over at Golden Moon Casino. They've got the table if you want to just go up there at the counter and fill it out. They've also got kiosks. You can bet on any major sport, college or the NFL. That includes NBA basketball. If you're a guy like Chad, you like hoops, college basketball, soccer. I mean, all that stuff worldwide. But check it out. They also have the slots and the table games and an amazing golf course over there called Dancing Rabbit. It's the Augusta that you can play. I mean, this is legitimately one of the best courses in the South. It's about an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 hours from Birmingham, but really all points around you can get there. And they've got some big shows coming up. Chad, you're a blue-collar comedy guy. Ron White is going to be there coming up. The Wallflowers are coming up as well. So they always have events there as well. And I made a mistake. Bowl season, this. I've had a very, very terrible year with my picks until bowl season came. And Mike Johnson invited me into the bowl pick'em contest.
Uh-oh.
And I told him when that happened that I would hate to take everybody's money.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. 33-10, which was the only reason I was pulling against DeBoer in that championship game.
And is that against the spread or just
no. It's basically what you do is it's on that ESPN game where you you pick like how you think, but still, I mean, I was still at like 99 point some percent. I mean, I had more points, but no one was really even close to me as far as wins. I lost. Well, obviously I had a lot of confidence that Bama was going to win, and that didn't happen. And I did not see Northwestern beating Utah. That to me was one of the worst games of bowl season. Did you have the upset?
Yeah, so I had a pretty good bowl run. I didn't have a good year, but there were a couple of bowl games where I went pretty heavy. And Northwestern money line was one of them. I took the money line. They were getting 6.5. I took money line.
Really?
I really, really liked them. I also really, really liked Arizona against Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, Arizona was as hot as a firecracker, man.
Right. And then I loved Georgia minus 20.
Well, that was my number one.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. And then
that was the easiest game to ever pick.
The other one though is I really liked, and I took it big, was Ole Miss money line over Penn State. I always think Penn State's a fraud, and I thought Ole Miss was real.
Yeah,
Ole Miss is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
They're going to be a problem. They're good.
They are.
They're good.
That's true. I kind of feel like that too. Well, before we get out of here, let's just kind of recap the process of picking a head coach. And you bring up Ole Miss. There were a lot of people that really felt like this was Lane Kiffin's job, but they're mostly people that don't have the inside information.
Right.
It's more or less, hey, this guy would come in and win. And I was surprised at how many Alabama fans forgave him for him being so selfish. The year 2016, that's the best team that didn't win a national championship. That's the one where I look back.
Yeah.
And I think if Lane, and look, when you make a deal with someone like Lane Kiffin, you should expect that that's the character that they're going to have. They're going to walk out, they're going to, once it's always about them. So once it doesn't matter about the team anymore, once you have that next job, why do I care if these guys win a championship or not? I think that's how a lot of people inside the building felt about Lane. And without him in the championship game, they got run. Yeah. And it was a close game. I mean, you remember it was a crisscross pet, but they should have beat that. They should have beat the hell out of that team.
They would have won that game if Bo Scarborough had not broken his leg.
Yeah, that too.
In the first half. That was a big difference. But here's the thing. Like, there's always the sources, and everybody's speculating, and what if, and I want this guy, and I think this. Well, here's why this guy may come. Well, hey, I found some crazy fourth cousin connection. Like one time Kirby Smart's grade school teacher was the fourth cousin of Greg Byrne. And so therefore we're, like, they come up with some crazy
ideas and connections. And, it sounds like, and the media does this too.
Right.
They kept saying, oh, Bama swung and missed on Lanning, swung and missed on Sark, like all this stuff. Really, Greg Byrne went to Seattle on Wednesday night. And so, it's like Byrne was in Seattle the whole time. I fully believe that Jimmy Sexton was in Tuscaloosa to finalize maybe a few things with Saban in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of be like, all right, well, here's what your contract means, and here's how, you retiring works, and here's what you got, and here's the final this and final that and whatever. And then I think at the same time, I have no proof of this, I just fully believe it, that Saban was talking to Jimmy Sexton about other coaches. Like, okay, well, here's what this guy and this guy and this guy, and Greg's up in Seattle, but Sexton represents DeBoer. And I think Jimmy played everybody like a fiddle. I mean,
I agree with that.
He is the Scott Boras of college football.
He is.
And he just went in there and got everybody paid, all because he showed up in Tuscaloosa for a few hours one afternoon, and he just kept silent. I think DeBoer, I truly believe, kind of knowing that about Greg Byrne too, that DeBoer was the number one target for Greg Byrne.
Yeah.
I think everybody else got raises, but I think DeBoer was the guy.
Yeah. And you know what? I got to say, I mean, the next round guys kind of predicted that Jimmy Sexton was going to, basically get all these clients rich, and that Alabama would be focused somewhere else. So you look at it, Dan Lanning wasn't going to make sense because the buyout, first thing. And honestly, I don't know. I never was, not to say I don't think he's a good coach, but I think that the situation there is it really is a pretty decent situation. He's got all the Nike money.
Yeah.
You're kind of alone now as the one place in the Pac-12 area, which doesn't even exist anymore, that has a huge fan base. I mean, there's a ton of Ducks fans.
Yeah.
They got a great home field advantage. People like that. Your biggest competition got left out in the cold. They don't really even have a conference anymore, So like, you're not going to have to worry about recruiting against them. I mean, you guys want to play Boise State or you want to play Ohio State?
Right.
I mean, whatever they're doing, it makes a lot of sense. The only other program that you really have to worry about is Washington. But he's got a good squad coming back. He's got, they've got the money and the resources. But when you look at DeBoer, Washington doesn't have the resources of Nike. They don't have the recruiting base. And it's a tougher job. I mean, he's got a lot of guys that are going to the NFL and are done playing college football. If there's a time to leave, it's probably now, as far as just the roster within itself.
Yeah.
I still think they would have had success, but it would have taken a while to rebuild. This would have been more of a rebuilding year. And you get the resources of Alabama. Now, the thing that I want to say is he would have been one of the most coveted coaches for any major program. And I mean, the Alabamas and the Michigans. Think about this. Harbaugh retires. This is a Midwest guy. There's a good chance that he goes to Michigan, which I still don't think they have the resources that Alabama has, but it's a great history-rich program. And it would have been interesting to see if they would have gone after him. But I think Harbaugh is going to the NFL, and I think that it could happen whenever. Maybe, as the playoffs go on. I don't know when coaches start getting hired, but he's going to get hired, and he's going to the NFL. I don't think he'll ever coach another college game. And I think that DeBoer would have been a great pick for them. Now they might hire his assistant, which Alabama really didn't have that option. There wasn't like that main coordinator that, like the Kirbys. Like, say a Kirby would have still been at Tuscaloosa. It would have been such an easy transition. So, interestingly enough, though, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's think about this though too, Mick. we're not even close to done with this coaching carousel.
Okay,
And what I mean
who
by
else
that
you got?
well, you've got 7 NFL jobs open right now.
Oh wow, yeah.
And really a lot of times the NFL and college don't impact one another for the most part. However, Jim Harbaugh is going to the NFL.
Right.
I fully believe that. So you're going to have, think about this, of the playoff teams, right? Bama's got a new coach. Washington will have a new coach. Michigan, the national champion, is going to end up with a new coach, assuming Harbaugh takes one of the jobs, which he's expected to interview with the Chargers next week. So that's not just any job. You now have Washington and Michigan open. So those are big names. You know, those aren't like a lot of times, oh, we just promote the offensive coordinator kind of situation. Like,
right.
Those are big time positions. And so if Arizona, and it all just eventually trickles down and gets watered down until somebody does hire within, and that's what kind of stops the domino. But if Arizona loses Jed Fish to Washington, now Arizona has a vacancy, and they got a taste of winning this year.
Right.
They're not going to want to go backwards. So then after you get Jed or Arizona filled, you know, who filled that spot and how does that domino impact?
Right.
Now let's go to Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's gone. The national champions have a vacancy. So who gets that job? I mean, seriously, if you're Michigan, like who do you hire? And I think if you go with a current head coach, my answer would be Brian Kelly. I think that's the best option for Michigan if it opens up.
I do too.
Okay, so now LSU's open. LSU's no slouch. That's a big deal. So now what happens with LSU's job? Like, who do they get? They're not going to want a coordinator. They just watched Billy Napier go from their backyard to Florida, and he sucks.
Yeah.
So, like, who do they get? You know, that's what I mean. Like this carousel, this domino, it's still got potentially 4, 5, 6 falls to go with it over the next few weeks. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I think there's still a lot of movement out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch now that Alabama has a coach. I'm still unsettled because
we get to sit back and not worry about it.
I'm still a little unsettled with this transfer portal. I want to see what I want some of the players to step up and basically get his back. You know, yeah. I want to hear some people come. Like I got to tell you this, man. Let me put this up on the screen because this did make my heart feel content. And I got to tell you, I was so glad. I was just so glad that people showed up.
A lot of people.
Yeah, because I was worried. I'm worried because trying to get the fan base all together is tough. But
I wondered that same thing. Like, would people show up? I'm with you, 100%.
Is it? Oh, there cool. You are. I just saw you.
You didn't see me.
You weren't there.
But that was cool.
What do you think? What do you think his family's reaction was to all this?
Well, he said it last night or yesterday. He's talking about how overwhelming. Or he said it wasn't overwhelming, but almost overwhelming.
It was almost overwhelming.
Yeah, what's funny. The meme? The meme was there were more people at the airport last night than Washington's or 2 nights ago than Washington's spring game.
Yeah,
like, that's what. Yeah. The one thing, though, remember we talked about this during the season, how I would say the team this past year didn't have a true leader, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or not one that we saw. And I get it. Everybody's going to be like, Milroe was the leader. Like, no, just because you're the quarterback doesn't mean you're the leader.
Right.
Like, there was not a guy on Alabama's team where you would say Michael Penix and the Huskies. There was no so-and-so in the Crimson Tide.
Right, right.
They didn't have that. They just didn't. And so I agree with you, Mick. I really wish there would be 2 or 3 players, upperclassmen or, maybe just superstars like Caleb Downs who would just kind of step up, call that team meeting and be like, guys, we're doing this. Like, quit being selfish, quit worrying about it. Nick is still going to be around, just, it's fine. We're Alabama. We're going to be okay. Like, we're still Alabama.
Yeah.
And kind of make that statement to the team and get everybody on board. And I know they had some unity and they had the, Lank and they had all that other stuff. But I don't know, man. I just kind of worry about that part of it and the leadership piece. That's one thing I've kind of worried a little bit on is that. I figured you would have liked it that the plane came in with orange and blue stripes. Was that you? Did Greg ask you to reserve the plane from Seattle to Tuscaloosa a couple of days ago?
We were talking about I've flown into that airport a bunch of times. And on Elephant in the Room the other day, we basically I cracked open a bottle of Blanton's and I poured Ryan Anderson. He needed a drink. I poured him probably like when I say fatty, I'm
3 fingers?
It might have been 4. And one of those old school NFL glasses, it just came out like that, And then I dipped my cigar. I mean, I'm, in there. I didn't really drink as much as I would normally have. And then, we just sat in here and had some drinks and kind of reminisced about Coach Saban. And there was a lot of concern. And, you wonder, like, what's going to happen next. And I started telling stories about how afraid of flying I was back when I was doing when I was working for Crimson Tide Sports Network and you get on those flights. And I've flown into that airport and driven out of there. Once you land in there, it's great. I mean, you just jump on your car and you're home in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But sometimes the comings and the goings in there, particularly, and I don't know why, but the trip to Arkansas, like there was always an air pocket, for whatever reason. And I was sharing some of the worst.
Ozarks, man.
Yeah, I was sharing some of the worst of flight stories with those guys.
Well, I've got one. There was a time where I was working with the gymnastics team, and we flew up a meet. I think it was pretty early in the year. Up in Penn State, and on our way out after the meet was over. That is the great thing about working with the teams is, I mean, you fly in the day before, you grab a hotel, you fly out as soon as the game or the meet or the match or whatever is over.
Right.
And you get home and it may be late, but you get home and you're in your bed
fast.
And I mean, it's private jets and flying and it's great. And sometimes it's nicer than the other, but whatever. It's still private. There's no checking in or TSA or any of that stuff.
They wand you when you get inside there, like a private wanding, It's not.
Man, I remember.
I forgot about that.
That's the scaredest I've been on a flight because it had snowed and iced, and the plane had to be de-iced. So we get on the runway, and we sat on the plane for an hour and a half. And it was one of those, I'm not kidding, man, that we, one of those deals where we take off, or we don't even take off. We go down the runway and we are zigzagging because it's so slick. You're doing one of these all the way down the runway. You take off, and I mean, it's bumpy and it's turbulence and the plane's getting tossed around because these aren't 737s. These planes seat 50 people, not 200 people.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, never been more thankful than that night seeing the Tuscaloosa Regional Airport.
No.
Oh, it was great.
I got a story, man. You just reminded me of this. I mean, now that we're at the end of the show, but I would fly on the Cubs charter from time to time. And this was a lot different than the Bama charter, right?
Yes.
So I knew most of the people, and they knew me. Obviously, I was flying, and I mean, I'm there with the team. But it's not like I was a regular on the charter. I mean, every once in a while during spring training, I'd do stuff. they had this wanding policy where they would pick people randomly to wand, right? And they'd go through your bag and do that. But most people would just walk on. I remember the first time I'm like, oh, I wonder who the random people are going to be. And then I'm like, oh, it's me.
You're Terry on Arnold over there. Oh, it's me.
like, okay, well, I guess they're going through my bag. So then the next time I went on, same thing. And then I knew, like, okay. So then the next time I was like, okay, I'm just ready. Like, pretty, like, I didn't see Javi Baez or Chris Bryant being wand,
No.
So,
you're
out in front of the plane, though. It was still great, by the way.
You're the upperclassman peeing in the cup for the the underclassman peeing in the cup for the upperclassman is what you're saying.
It's funny. Like I'd be on there and like the like Len Casper or whoever I was with, they'd tell me all the stuff, like, hey, here's what we do. These guys go on first. This was the row you're going to sit in. I mean, it was really like an ordeal. Don't be the first guy off the plane, and all this stuff. Like, I just follow the rules. And then, like, some of them, like, you'd have there was one of the flights I had like a whole row, and it was during March Madness. And every TV I had a different basketball game on. And then you can get, like, they bring you whatever whatever beer you want or whatever. They have like a good selection in there. And it's fun, man. Like, people are playing cards and stuff. It's the shortest flight you'll ever take because you're like, man.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I don't want this one to end.
I'm like, there's Anthony Rizzo right there, like 2 rows away from me. So,
yeah, I didn't get to do that kind of charter. I've done though when with minor league being on the bus, and he made it to the major leagues. Michael Fires, he even threw a no hitter with either the A's or the Astros. But what was so funny with that one is, he and I were both the new guys because it was my first year, and he had gotten called up from single A to double A, and I got on the bus. I didn't ride with the team, but then I met up with the team in Jacksonville and got on the bus to go to the stadium, and I took his seat, and I didn't mean to, but I robbed his seat, and he kind of gives me, when you got a guy who's a professional baseball player and obviously stronger than you and bigger than you, and he's kind of
just get up,
he's kind of eyeballing you like my seat here. It's like you get up, but everybody else was already on the bus, so it was that really lonely walk down the aisle to where you're like, where am I going to sit? And it's just like a Southwest flight. Nobody wants you to sit next to them.
No, it's like Forrest Gump.
So they're all like
seats taken.
Yeah.
No seat here.
Whatever they can. Yeah. You're the orphan at that point. But,
where'd you sit?
There was
next to the trainer.
That was actually it. Next to the trainer. Yeah.
I've been there.
Yep. So I had to go up a row, and then the trainer's pissed at you.
Yeah. No one wants to double. But now it's changed. They get 2 buses now, so you get your own row. Sometimes you get a whole row, like 2 sides.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, this was fun, man. That's definitely a stressful week, guys. And all right, couple things I want to tell you. First off, we're gonna have shows. I drop them every morning, so we're gonna keep doing that through the off season. And we'll hit on something. If things break, obviously we'll have it. So make sure you hit the bell, you like and subscribe, share as well. I mean, we're trying to build this channel, and it's building. I mean, really, it is. But it's a slow grind on YouTube. It's not an overnight thing. But man, all of you guys that have like dropped the super chats and stuff, man, thank you so much. Appreciate that, and the comments, and it's been so much fun. I'm figuring out right now when we're gonna do our weekly call-in show. But you guys have asked for that, and I'm going to do that as well. So we're kind of restructuring things now that the season's over. I've got a vacation coming up, so once that's done, I think then we'll get on a really strong schedule. Or maybe I'll just do it from Key West. I mean, why not, right? Make everyone jealous. Secondly, the code Bama Tailgate at newlifeart.com gets you 15% off any regularly priced items. So make sure that you take advantage of that. and you're going to want some of the great prints. That Gravedigger print, look, that's one of Saban's last great moments, and that still is unbelievable. And if you remember what Chad was saying on the channel at the time in real time, yeah, you're going to need that for your house. The other thing is this, and I see you disappeared right when I was going to you, Chad. Your battery probably went dead. Are you still there verbally? There you are. Tell me,
I'm still here.
I'm gonna minimize you, but I am gonna give you a chance to tell everyone about Modern Lending.
Well, I appreciate that, and everybody kind of asking some questions during the season and reaching out and whatever. We actually have someone. I don't mention the names because I don't want to like mess up privacy and stuff. But I actually have somebody who's a fan and a listener, a viewer of the channel, who we're working with right now, helping out on a refinance, doing a cash out, getting some equity, all the good stuff. So like I said, this person, I'll give them the option about like leaving us a review and testimony and all that, but it's going well. Enjoying that process. And what's cool about that, just to be honest, I'm getting a little sidetracked, but what's cool about it is like literally getting to interact with you guys off the channel as well, and just kind of like getting to know people as or someone as an actual person, and helping them out, because it's even more than just talking about Bama football and whatnot. So anyway, that's just a true live testimony of already helping somebody who's here on the channel, and appreciate them and their support. We actually have a new website too that we're launching, so I'll have to get Mick an updated graphic, but it's Chadwick. Mick loves when I have my
old
name.
Chadwick. I like the Chadwick name. You hate Chadwick.
I hate it, but we're using it. ChadwickAnderson.com, and rates have been dropping here at the first of the year. Things have picked up quite a bit. So we helped somebody too, Mick, the other day, last testimonial. I'm not kidding. We're saving them $3,300 a month.
Really?
With their situation. Yeah. So that's pretty extreme. But even if it was $500 a month, 1,000, 300, whatever's important to you, it's a really good time to try to take advantage of the market. So reach out if you'd like some information on anything.
Yeah, awesome. And don't forget, you were my mortgage guy, and Big Elmo, who's also someone you guys hang out with on the channel. He wants a new house, and you're his guy. So just know that you're going to hear from Brett Elmore as well. I can't wait to get you guys together on some shows. I told him that the other day. But you've got to get him. You got to get him. He's like a guy who owns radio stations in Jasper, but now he wants a bigger residence. So, all right. Well, that was a lot of fun, guys, hanging out with you and talking. This was Sunday Rollback. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again on Monday unless something enormous breaks, and then we'll cover that as well. But it has been quite a week, and I think that it's kind of in closing here. I think that Greg Byrne did an amazing job with everything that Alabama needed him to do, and he once again proved his worth. I think it's amazing to see that he went out and got a great hire, 48 hours, took care of business. And I couldn't ask as an Alabama guy for anything better than what I saw Greg pull off again. So this is another, and look, there's still, you got to go out and win football games, but this guy definitely passes the sniff test. And I'm excited again, as an Alabama fan, to see the future of this program, and I like what Greg Byrne did. So kudos to him in the athletic department. Any final thoughts, Chad?
No, that's it. I agree with you, and this is a good one. So Bama fans, it's gonna be maybe questioning on some stuff, and it's gonna be a little nerve-wracking watching the portal and watching the staff and everything kind of come together, but I do believe that Alabama's in some pretty good hands going forward.
All right. So for Chad Anderson, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Again, make sure that you guys are part of what we're doing here. Like and subscribe. That's a great way of saying roll tide. Give us a thumbs up. And we will talk to you again really soon. Don't freeze this week. I know it's going to be cold. All right, roll tide.